Happy New Year, everyone, and thanks so much for all the support on the channel in 2023. This week's podcast episode is a little different than usual. We had some playback issues, so we went ahead and cut this up into two different parts. This first part will discuss our best and worst calls of our Beat the Waiver Wire segment in 2023. Also, if you want to check out the full version of the podcast, you can go ahead and do so. Just head over to all the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on them all. You can check it out. And if you enjoyed this video here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, support us as we continue to grow here at In Between Media. Thanks so much and enjoy the program.
Cause I've been in tune, out of touch, coming off the bench, trying to shake the funk, check your stat line, see who's up, that over under hit too clutch.
And I'm trying to avoid getting carried away with the jet sweep, sleeping on a trick play, predicting all of my moves like they seen every play. And so I'm running it back, head down, get out of my way. And it's for the law with only one thing to do. I guess I'll say a prayer and put it all on the line for you. What they don't know, something they haven't seen. I find a gap on the screen and hit them right in between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it.
Just one thing to say, yeah, what they don't know, something they haven't seen. I'm off that mean Joe Green, it got me fading between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right, so in the scope is our waivers a week early, beat the waiver wire, whatever you want to call it. We call it in the scope. And these are the guys that you can pick up for free a week before the waiver runs. We're really just trying to save you fab and get you some high profile players or potential high profile players before they are that. And Scott, with this segment, there's a lot of highs and lows with it because like we have to take swings, and sometimes with those swings you get a wide receiver one for the season, and then sometimes with those swings you get a guy who has like 3 receptions the whole season. So a lot of highs and lows, but it's one of our trademark segments, and I always get good feedback on it. So I think we'll keep it in the rotation for next season.
Yeah, no, definitely some highs and lows. I think you were just describing Calvin Austin there for a second. One of my in the scopes. I mean, it's always going to be that way. It's there's a 1,000 waiver rankings every week, but not quite as many people are like, this is a guy that. So I mean, there's a lot more
is rostered in one. Yeah,
it's you're going to have a lot more misses when you're trying to.
Yeah, we're trying to identify the breakouts before they happen in the scope. So, Kyle, let's go ahead and bring up our worst calls of the year to poke some fun at ourselves. You brought it up, Scott. So, week 1, I had a great call with one of my in the scopes, and my other one was Isaiah Hodgins. I was drafting him late places. I was picking him up before the week 1 started. It was terrible. Rashad Bateman's on this list. I thought, like, after week 2, people were dropping him, Scott. I was like, oh my God, I think like this could be like where people regret. No, he was fucking terrible. And then your guy Calvin Austin here.
I thought he was going to get some run as the slot receiver in Pittsburgh, and I thought Kenny Pickett wasn't god awful. So yeah, that one didn't really work out. Was I also Dulcich? Was that?
No, that was me.
That was kind of he's coming back from injury, scoop him up, and he just never did.
No, yeah, you're Greg Dulcich. That was pie on the face. I called Chris Rodriguez because I thought that Antonio Gibson might get traded. So I was like, oh, C-Rod could be the number 2 guy. And I mean, he showed some flashes at the end, but just got hurt at the wrong time. Yeah.
But not in week 9 or 10.
My 2 worst, though, Cedric Tillman after week 10, his snap shares went up a shit ton. I was like, oh, man, Cedric Tillman might be like the number 2 now in Cleveland. No, I don't know what happened that game. I don't know if it was just because David Bell got hurt, I think is what it was. And I didn't adjust that appropriately. But Cedric Tillman was garbage. And then I let old Pete Carroll talk me into Kenny McIntosh the week when Kenneth Walker was hurt. I stashed him late in the week in a couple places. I'm like, shit, man, am I going to get the guy, Kenny McIntosh? And he said he was going to go straight to the top of the depth chart. Well, he went straight to the bench. And I don't know if he took a carry this year. It was just god awful.
Yeah. Yep. Those are all bad in the scopes. You're right.
Those are terrible. Those are probably
There were some more. I feel like there were I think Trey Palmer I called out. He didn't do shit either.
Yeah, yeah. We definitely had a lot of bad ones. I thought these were probably the worst.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's go ahead and talk about the good ones though.
All right.
Kyler Murray, this was actually you week 8. He was QB 10 on a points per game basis once he came back. You were questioning and feeling out that, hey, maybe we should try to pick him up before he gets back here. He could add some late season value, and he had some disappointing games, but like he had a really high floor, man. Like Kyler Murray was solid for you down the stretch if you had a guy like Anthony Richardson or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think how many total games did he play? He played 7 total games.
Yeah.
After his injury, and depending on your scoring format, scored 20 plus fantasy points in 4 of those.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty decent. But he came through with 20 point games in week 16 and week 17. I had him on a couple of the teams that I ended up winning a championship with as my, I'd been rolling with I had been the victim of the Anthony Richardsons and whatever, the chaos at quarterback.
Yeah.
So many Did you see that tweet the other day of all the different quarterbacks that have started a game?
No, I didn't see the full list.
It was ridiculously long. And then I rolled with Jake Browning for a couple of weeks, but I considered dropping Kyler because he had 2 straight games with like less than 15 points. But they also weren't that great of matchups. So, he was just one of those guys where when I suggested picking him up, he was still on IR. So like if you had an IR slot, why not? And just see what happens. And I honestly think overall he was about as good as I kind of expected. He wasn't really worse. If you were expecting Kyler Murray of 2 years ago to come in and lead,
get out of luck. Yeah.
That was a little, unrealistic, but he was a decent pickup with the QB chaos and carnage.
How about it? Yeah. RB, I think our best running back pickup of the year in the scope was Devin Singletary. Eric actually called him out going into a bye week. So something to keep in mind for 2024, when these players go on a bye week and they're underperforming early in the year, that's a chance to scoop them up. And if you can stash them, and in my home league that I won this year, Scott, Singletary became a very, very big piece of that team, and I scooped him up right when Eric said there in week number 7. He was the RB8 from week 10 on. And Eric said in a message the other day when him and I were texting back and forth that he learned a lot about scheme fit, and Devin Singletary was a great scheme fit for this Bobby Slowick Houston Texans run game. And look, man, he's a pretty good pack too. This is 3rd straight season with 800 plus yards and saw a career high in carries as well. So a really good shout out there from Eric in week number 7. Devin Singletary was a big one.
Yeah, he was one of those. I mean, you talked about Cedric Tillman and how, sometimes the tea leaves you have to read is snap share and, just an increase in usage or an increase in opportunity. And that's what Eric picked up on with Devin Singletary heading in, because it was before the bye, where the scales between him and Dameon Pierce really started. It wasn't the reason it was a good call. And it was, it was getting out in front of it is because Devin Singletary hadn't taken over yet.
No,
but you could see it happening with their workloads. And then they went into a bye, and I mean, nothing is ever guaranteed. Cedric Tillman didn't continue to get that work. Yeah. Nothing's ever guaranteed, but I'm sorry to keep bringing up Cedric Tillman.
That's all right, man.
I like Cedric Tillman.
I do like him.
He's a good prospect, but going into a bye, I mean, none of us are NFL managers or head coaches or, front offices, but we can speculate that teams often will make a change during a bye week. And Eric nailed that one.
Yeah, shout out Eric. Other running back, I think we did a good job on Tyjae Spears. You called him out week 2, RB34 on the season. He had only 1 RB1 finish, but 3 RB2 finishes and 5 RB3 finishes. So if you needed a guy like Tyjae Spears, is kind of a guy like you weren't excited to plug him into your lives too many weeks out of the year, but he was serviceable more times than not. And fuck them ACL, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of those guys to have on your bench if you need a PPR flex starter.
That's kind of like a desperation guy you hold on the bench.
Yeah, I remember I had him in Scott Fishbowl, and there were a couple of different weeks where I rolled him out there, and he scored double digits.
Yeah,
he didn't win the week or anything, but he was a solid play. And he's just one of those guys I'd love to see. I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen. I'd love to see him just get more of a primary workload. I think he's really good.
100%. Maybe we see it here in 2024. All right, probably our best call of the year. Before week 1, I put out a tweet. I said it on this show. Do whatever you fucking can to add Puka Nacua to your team. And I mean, he was just sensational this year. He was a wide receiver 5 overall, man. And, even when Cooper Kupp came back, he had some down moments. He wasn't getting 20 targets, 15 targets a game, but this guy is just a gamer, man. And like, you even saw kind of this weekend when he got loose for a deep shot, he's not the fastest guy out there at all. Like he doesn't really have that great of wheels, but just a crisp route runner, a very coachable player, and a guy who's going to break some ankles out there. And man, like shout out Puka Nacua. Like what a fucking run that was, Scott. And I mean, I'll just pat our team on the back, man. What a call from us, dude. That was awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean, he was, one of the, if not the best waiver pickups. Every year there's a couple of waiver guys you get early that end up being league winners, whatever you want to call them, that end up being studs. And Puka Nacua fits that to a T. Him, Kyron Williams is another one, probably didn't get drafted.
Yeah.
Whoever picked him up, but Puka, I mean, he reminded me of Cooper Kupp. I remember the first game the Seahawks played against the Rams. It was early in the season.
Like, holy fuck.
And I was just like, this guy just it wasn't like he was making these insane contested catches or outrunning everybody. He just, he just knew where to be, and he just kept getting catches all game long. That pretty much continued all season.
Yeah.
We'll see if Cooper Kupp's fully healthy, but and those two together, if Cooper Kupp's fully healthy, that's two just amazing weapons for Stafford.
I'm excited, man. Hopefully old man Stafford can keep slinging the ball because he's got some great talent out there.
I love Stafford.
Yeah, he's gritty as fuck. Probably my other best call of the year, I would say, was Rashee Rice, week 4. I was planting my flag in the ground. Hey, let's go get this guy before he becomes a waiver wire target. And he became that pretty much in week 5. So we are a week early on him. Wide receiver 21 this season, wide receiver 4 overall from week 12 on. Mm-hmm. Listen, Scott, I have a Travis Kelce jersey on because he was my first pick in my home league. I ordered it in September, right after the draft, like September 7th. It didn't come till this week because, hey, that's how some of these, cheaper jersey sites roll, if we can say that. And if I could go back, I would buy a Rashee Rice jersey because this guy was just an absolute animal. He was the most dependable guy for Patrick Mahomes and for fantasy managers. Like, he did not let you down the stretch. So many games with double-digit PPR points. Like, I don't know if he ever had less than 8-9 points in a game this entire year. It was just sensational.
Yeah, I mean, and it just got better as the season went on, and because a common frustration with KC, at least with their wide receiver rooms of the past few years, is that Andy Reid rotates receivers in like crazy. So no one ever has anywhere near a 90% route participation. But Rice started to get there at the end of the season, and you saw the results of that. I think he comes into 2024, and depending on what they do in free agency or even in the draft, as their clear-cut wide receiver 1. I'm kicking myself because kind of right before he started taking off, I made a trade in a dynasty league where I was going for it. I don't have any draft picks in 2024 because I was just going for it. And one of the trades I made a trade for Bijan, Laporta, I got these guys in. And then one of the last trades I made, I got an offer. It was my Rashee Rice and a couple draft picks for Pollard. And I was like, hell yeah. So I took it,
yeah, that's heartbreaking.
And so we'll see how it all plays out. But it was a guy rebuilding, me contending. And then of course, I missed the bye in that league by, a couple of points, and then got killed in week 15. So it was just damn it. Now I don't have any draft picks.
And the ceiling and I know you can't buy Rice really right now in Dynasty because the price is jacked up as hell. But there's a chance that Travis Kelce is done after this season. He's talked about it on his podcast. He doesn't look like the same guy. I don't know if he's ever gotten healthy. I could see him and his brother just kind of riding off in the sunset together. If that happens, Rice's ceiling goes up substantially. And Scott, who are they going to bring in this offseason unless the Bengals let T. Higgins walk? I don't think Mike Evans is getting out of Tampa Bay after the season he just had with Baker Mayfield either. So you're looking DeAndre Hopkins again? Could he be the answer? and they're not high enough in the draft, I don't think, to get a Roma Dunze or someone they really want, a Malik Neighbors. Obviously they're not getting close to Marvin Harrison Jr. So like, I don't think any of the late first round receivers would really move the needle off of Rashee Rice that much.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, some of the people I listen to this time of year for prospect type things, like Christian Williamson, Kevin, Du Bois, have been talking up this 2024 receiver class as one
It's
of the
great.
best.
I mean, it's very good.
So I mean, I don't, maybe there's a receiver there that if they go that's not the only thing they need.
Oh, so, yeah.
If they go that direction, but yeah, like I said, I mean, even if they brought in DeAndre Hopkins, I'm still taking Rice over Hopkins next year.
Yeah. It'll be hard not to go back to Rice. Last call from us here for our All in the Scope team is Trey McBride. We shouted out him in week 7, and this was another one of those, like, it was very just on hope and on the uptick of 33 to 58% snap rate. That's what, like, when I went out, I was like, hey, go grab this guy because he's getting more snaps all of a sudden than Zach Ertz. We didn't expect Zach Ertz to get hurt and then him to, want to be released. Like, that wasn't in the plan, but still, like, Scott, we saw that 22% increase in target share. And that's all that made us, hey, maybe we should go out and get Trey McBride. We were a week early on him. He saw 100 targets this season, put up 78 receptions, 791 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So positive TD regression is coming for him. He was tight end 2 from week 8 on. Just fantastic.
I mean, he's a monster. And he was another one, a fantastic waiver pickup. You don't typically get him at tight end. I mean, Laporta, depending on how deep your league was, for the most part in my leagues, Kincaid was the rookie that got drafted, and Laporta was one of the first tight ends scooped up off waivers, which I did in like every single league. But McBride was one of those mid-season, highest drafted tight end last year, just quiet, nothing happened. Everybody kind of forgot about him. And then, I mean, especially in PPR, he was a monster. And I mean, Kyler Murray loved him. He was their pass catcher 1, wide receiver 1, whatever you want to call it. Easily down the stretch.
Who are you taking, Trey McBride or Sam Laporta first next year?
I'm still taking Laporta.
Okay. Let's say Kelsey retires. Is Trey McBride number 2 for you?
Maybe. Hawkinson gets healthy. It's hard to pass
Andrews
up on Hawkinson.
too. Yeah.
And Andrews, we'll see. But I mean, I think both Laporta and McBride are top 5.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I mean, which is just insane how quickly that happened. But I mean, it's just been, honestly, with McBride down the stretch, I mean, Laporta scored more touchdowns, but McBride's been more consistent. Laporta's been stifled by a couple of tough opponents. Not McBride. I think against the Browns, one of the toughest tight end opponents. He had a great game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's again, full PPR. Or any kind of tight end premium. McBride was a killer for you.